Hey guys, welcome to another installment of Gideon Stuff Adventures. Fun fact, my favorite U.S. national park is Arches in Utah. Utah has some fantastic national parks. Zion, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef. Oh my gosh, I love Capitol Reef. But Arches stands alone. It's kind of in its own category, and I'm pretty sure that if you were to survey the entire US population, most people might cite Arches as their favorite national park. It's probably one of the most visited natural attractions in the United States, next to things like the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls. It is amazing. National parks like Zion or Bryce Canyon or Canyonlands or Capitol Reef have a lot in common. They offer a lot of the same things. It's stunning rock formations and beautiful desert scenery. In fact, if you're a desert rat like me and you love the beauty of the desert, southern and central Utah is pretty hard to beat. But even when compared to the splendor of the hoodoos out at Canyonlands or the Cathedral Valley of Capitol Reef, Arches is kind of its own thing. I've been to Arches several times, and each time I'm there, I'm always impressed. I'm always filled with awe. No matter how many times I stand under Delicate Arch, or hike to the Twin Arches, or look at balanced rock, I'm filled with that same sense of wonder. And I think it's because, in some way, natural arches kind of feel alien to us. They feel like they shouldn't exist. They call to mind things like ancient, primeval engineering or magical gateways to other dimensions. And that's hyperbole. So don't even get started with me in the comment sections, you magic crystal healing energy pseudoscience peddling hippies. Keep your magic mumbo jumbo bullshit away from my rocks. Nevertheless, there is something awe-inspiring about natural arches, which is kind of weird that they seem so shocking and alien because processes that make them really aren't that unique. It's just erosion by wind, water, ice, and gravity. Just the same processes that make every single canyon ever. Now, I haven't been to Arches in a while, and it's probably going to be a long time before I'm able to make that trip. But that's okay. Luckily, I don't need Arches. I've got Arches at home. Let's talk about the Doña mountain arches. Alrighty, so just like always, before we get to the actual adventure, I want to set the stage for you guys and give you some context for what we're going to be seeing out at the Doñanas. So the Doña Mountains are a small but incredibly rugged mountain range just a few miles north of Las Cruces, New Mexico. The highest point in the range is just a little ways over 5,000 feet, I believe, and it's a pretty small area, about 137 kilometers overall. But when I say rugged, I mean rugged. This can sometimes be a pretty unpleasant place, especially in the summers. There's been a few times I've been out there during the summers mapping and doing some other field work. It's 110 degrees. It's hard to find shade because there's basically no vegetation out here, very, very little vegetation. All of the hills and slopes are like this, so climbing up them is a huge chore. It's pretty gnarly out there. But it's awesome for geologists. You look at these mountains and it looks like lion's teeth, dog teeth just sticking up out of the desert. You've got all these tall spires, these large monoliths, and you have these deep arroyos and canyons. And because there's so little vegetation, when it does rain out there, it's very prone to flash floods. And these floods roar through these canyons and arroyos, and they take the rock apart by the tons. So a lot of really, really cool rock features out here. Because there's not a lot of plants, you can look at the rocks, they're not covered up by anything, and the bedrock is very, very well exposed by all this erosion. The very northernmost fifth of the range is made out of Paleozoic sedimentary rocks, primarily Pennsylvanian and Permian in age. These were rocks deposited in oceanic and marginal marine environments about 300 million years ago. The rest of the range, however, is much more recent volcanic rocks. And that's one of the main differences between the Doña arches and the arches that you see at Arches National Park. Almost all of the rock formations at Arches are Jurassic-aged sedimentary rocks. More specifically, most of the arches occur in a formation called the Entrada Sandstone, which was formed during the Triassic period and consists of mainly sand dune and marginal marine beach environments. The Doña arches, in comparison, are formed in volcanic rhyolite, which is a quite different rock, and it's significantly younger. The Doña rhyolite was erupted about 27 million years ago. The Entrada sandstone is about 150 million years old. That's a big difference. Well, today we are hiking to the Doña Arch. This is out here in the Doña Mountains in Doña County. Doña. I've been out to the Doñanas several times. Not as often as you might expect, though. They're a very rugged little mountain range. Last time I was out here, I actually got shot at. You guys might remember I did a review cutting out here, and that happened. But this is probably going to be a pretty fun little hike. It's going to be 3.6 miles.
3.4, but I don't know. That's like from like the trailhead. I don't know how far back we parked.
Okay, so like 3.4. This is the beginning of the trailhead, so 3.4 miles. I think it's a loop trail, so I think that's 3.4 in total. Generally considered a challenging hike. It is pretty rugged. It's hot. Make sure you got water. Make sure you got good shoes, and keep an eye out for snakes. Most of the units that we're going to be seeing today are going to be volcanic. And right here is what I think is the oldest unit that's exposed out here. This is the Palm Park andesite. Very distinctive with this kind of purpley red color. If we get real close here, we can see that it's full of lithics. These are pieces of other rocks. These are xenoliths. So foreign rocks have been trapped up in this melt. And over here, we can see that we've got what appears to be a little dike or a sill cutting across here. We can see that it actually has pieces of the Palm Park in it. And this appears to be a more felsic rock. Maybe not quite a rhyolite, but pretty close. So the first arch we're going to be getting to is just around the corner right there. But this rock that we're on right now, whoa, is kind of cool. This is an outcrop of flow-banded rhyolite. And this little face here, maybe not this face. Let's see. Yeah, right here is good. You can kind of see that texture, that flow banding. And sometimes it comes out as like these really cool colors. You can see kind of differences right there. Let's see here. Yeah. Very, very cool. All right, let's see the arch.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you can really see the flow banding very, very nicely. Oh wow. That is cool. Well, one arch down, one to go. Now you might have noticed that we are walking on roads, but these roads are pretty steep and rocky. One of the main recreational activities out here is off-road vehicles. A lot of people come out here and ride dirt bikes and quad bikes and ATVs. And so if you come out here, four-wheel drive is highly recommended, but also be very, very careful about how far you choose to go along a road. Because some of the roads that are like main roads that come right off of Delray Boulevard turn into this. So be smart, and when you feel like it's a good time to quit before you damage your vehicle, you're probably right, and you should probably pull over and walk the rest of the way. There it is, the freestanding arch. And this last part of the trail has been a summabitch. But we're almost there now. Very steep, very rocky, slippery, just not all that pleasant. Well, there it is. That's pretty cool. There's a Janelle for scale. I'm using you for scale. There's a buzzard waiting for us to die. All right, let's look at the geography here. So, see here, this little round thing right there, that is Temuco Mountain, or San Diego Mountain. San Diego Mountain's a Spanish name. I like to use the native name, out of respect. Beyond that are the Caballos. Over here, let's see, way off in the distance, those far blue mountains are the Black Range, or the Mimbres Mountains. A little bit closer, right in here, are the Sierra de las Uvas and the Rough and Readies. And this little peak right there, that's Magdalena Mountain. Here are the Robledos, Robledo Peak. That mountain is Picacho. You can actually see the Portrillos just behind it. And then, I bet if I get on the other side of this rock, we can see the Organs and the San Andres. Ooh, that's pretty. Right down in there, that little draw goes to a spot called Cleophas Canyon. I've done a geologic map out there. Just, well, let's see here. This little town out here is Radium Springs. Just out this way is a little arroyo called Lucero Arroyo, which has got some pretty cool exposures. And yeah, the blue mountains in the back are the San Andres. Back side of the arch. I guess I'm gonna do some more climbing. Again, this stuff up here is Rhyolite. So why the heck am I climbing all the way to the top to get a view of the Organs If you guys have watched this channel, you've seen the organs time and time again. Well, it's because I'm a completionist. If I don't do a full 360, it's gonna bug me. Whew. Here we are. Ta-da! The organs. Whew. You know, I need to do more exploring in the Doñanas. I've been around a bit, but there's a lot to see out here. It's just so damn rugged. Hard to get anywhere if you don't have an ATV. Whew. Yeah, look at that. And speaking of ATVs, down there, I see someone has built some ramps. That's kind of cool. One of my favorite snacks when I'm out here hiking in the desert is barrel cactus fruit. And you guys have seen me do a bunch of things with these on the channel, including making salsa and things like that. And these ones aren't fully ripe, but they're really good because they're refreshing and they're hydrating. They've got like this little like goo, this gel in them that kind of keeps your saliva going, keeps your mouth wet. And they taste, to me, they've always kind of tasted like a mix between a cucumber and a bell pepper. It's kind of light and refreshing. They've got all these seeds. You can't eat them, or you can spit them out. I'm going to chow them down today because I don't know why not. This is a very cool little freestanding arch. Kind of like a miniature delicate arch from Arches, except not really, because it's not even shaped that much like delicate arch, and it's volcanic rock instead of sandstone, but you know, whatever.
So how does a natural arch form? Well, via erosion, as you might expect. And the main contributing factors for erosion are wind, water, ice, gravity, and chemical weathering. And yes, I split ice and water into separate groups, and I'll explain why. Wind and water erode rock in basically the same way. They break little tiny pieces off the rock and move those pieces somewhere else. It could be water running down a rock or washing against the rock. Maybe it's at a cut bank in a river and the water just kind of scooping out. Same thing with wind. Wind can just be blowing against the side of a rock wall, and it just removes little tiny pieces over this course of millions and millions of years and takes those pieces somewhere else. The reason I separated ice from water is because of a process called ice wedging. And this is where water leaks down to cracks in the rock and then freezes. And what does water do when it freezes? That's right, it expands. And so if you think about this, you've got a crack in your rock wall, it's full of water, that water freezes and it expands, it's going to push that crack out. It's going to make it a little bit bigger. And over time, that crack gets bigger, bigger, bigger until eventually a piece of that rock falls off. And that leads us nicely into gravity. People sometimes don't consider this that much, but gravity is a huge factor in erosion. Things fall down. It's kind of simple, but think about that. Things fall down, and that changes the way that rock formations look. And the last form of erosion that I mentioned was chemical weathering, and this is basically a process where chemical reactions take rocks apart at the molecular level. And my go-to example of this is carbonation erosion. And this kind of erosion is especially potent against rocks like limestone. Limestone is made up primarily of calcium carbonate, CaCO3. When carbon dioxide, CO2, in the atmosphere mixes with rainwater, H2O, it forms a weak acid called carbonic acid, H2CO3. And when that acid falls as acid rain onto limestone, it dissolves the calcium carbonate and takes the rocks apart in that way. And this can also work on like the sandstones out at arches, because some of those clasts, the little pieces of sand, they're held together sometimes by calcium carbonate, sometimes by silica, and there are certain chemical reactions that will undo that silica or that calcium carbonate and let those sand grains drop free. So let's imagine that we're looking at a big rock wall right here, and over millions and millions of years, all of those different erosional processes that we talked about are taking their toll on this wall. Let's say that it's located in a canyon that just so happens to channel a bunch of wind in this direction towards it. Let's say this canyon is susceptible to flash flooding, and those floods constantly hit up against this side of the wall. Let's say that during the winter they get a lot of precipitation that freezes in these weak cracks in the rock, and then gravity will bring those blocks down and they tumble away. And what you get over time is a weak point. They'll keep getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and eventually, bada bing, bada boom, you've got an arch. And horribly deformed, crippled mermaid children can go visit it. What the heck are those feet? My boy's built like a boat anchor. All right, I'm going to throw one more term at you guys, and this is something that I've been asked about, so I'm going to bring it up here. And the term is natural bridge, and the question is, what's the difference between a natural arch and a natural bridge? And my normal answer is really nothing. But if you're not satisfied with that answer, the real answer is a natural bridge crosses something. It spans something like an arroyo or a wash, a creek, a river, something like that. And so you could say that a natural bridge is formed primarily via water erosion, while a natural arch is any kind of arched formation that's formed by multiple erosional processes. Here, allow me to shed some light on the subject with a visual aid. Yes, I've got a whiteboard, so I'm gonna whiteboard, guys. If you got it, use it, right? So here's the big difference. This here is a natural arch. Notice there is no river or stream here, but if I say all of a sudden that, oh look, there is a river / stream that flows through this arch. Now, it's a natural bridge. So, all natural bridges are natural arches, but not all natural arches are natural bridges. And so, to me, it's kind of a pedantic and semantic differentiation. I don't find it to be particularly important, interesting, or all that useful, but you would be surprised at how many people have asked me about this or brought this up to me. So here you go. I hope that helped. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm glad that I got to use my whiteboard again. Alrighty, so we talked about the lithologic differences between the Doña arches and the arches, but the erosional processes that form these arches are exactly the same. Now, the volcanic rocks at the Doñanas are what we're interested in because those units have the arches, specifically the rhyolites. There's a couple of different rock types out here, but most of them are rhyolitic, and those are the ones that we're interested in. Rhyolite is a felsic, highly explosive volcanic rock. Now, real quick, I want you to take a second. I want you to use your noodle and picture a volcanic eruption, okay? And there's a bunch of different kinds of volcanic eruptions you can picture. Think about it hard. If you're picturing something like you'll see in Hawaii, where kind of thick, gooey lava is slowly creeping over a road or something like that, that is not rhyolite. That's basalt. And I said thick, oozy, kind of bubbling lava. Basalt is actually quite low on the viscosity scale. It's kind of like molasses. It will flow. Rhyolite does not do that. Rhyolite likes to go boom. Think about it. A basaltic eruption, the lava boils to the surface and it just kind of oozes out. Rhyolite can't ooze. So when it comes to the surface, it builds up all this pressure and it's got all these gases and all kinds of stuff in it. And so it gets to the top and it, boom, it explodes. Think Mount St. Helens. Think explosive big clouds of ash in the air, those kind of eruptions. That's what forms rhyolite. And it's because rhyolite has high concentrations of silica in it. But yeah, the main takeaway is rhyolite go boom.
Hello guys, it is holy cow. It is late night editing, Gideon. I had a couple of things to add. So the rhyolite that these arches are eroded into is called the Doña rhyolite. It's a flow-banded rhyolite. And flow-banded rhyolite is formed when pyroclastic eruptions, think these big clouds of ash and hot rock, basically volcanic debris, flow across a landscape. This is not the same thing necessarily as a basalt flow where the lava is creeping across the ground like at Hawaii. This is more like a cloud being propelled down a slope through a valley, something like that. Think the destruction of Pompeii. And when this cloud of debris cools quickly, it actually locks in evidence of the friction that was being formed as it's flowing. And so that's where we get this flow-banded rhyolite from. The flow bands come from friction, essentially. And so this can make the rhyolite maybe a little more susceptible to erosion, and maybe that's why this particular rhyolite body is what is hosting these arches. Could also just be, kind of fate, luck of the draw. But this, the Doña Mountains represent a series of different volcanic events over the course of a couple million years. And the eruption of the Doña rhyolite was probably the last eruption from the Doña caldera. And when all this material was expelled from the magma chamber, the caldera collapsed in on itself. And yeah, that's how calderas work. So just want to provide a little more context on that, I guess. That is gorgeous. Climbing that thing could be an adventure all of its own. So a friend of mine in this area has been telling me for years about bat caves up in the Doñanas, but he's never taken me out there. I think these are them. Well, after a moderately tricky, slippery scree slope, here we are. I don't know about bats, but definitely a lot of rats and birds. Oh, and look at that big old Sphinx moth. That's cool. A little bit slippery, but up we go. Actually, I'm gonna have to put this down. Looks like this one just ends here. pretty stank in here. It does stink.
Yeah, those ropes. I don't like it. I don't understand that. You're supposed to like grab them?
Yeah, it's a little sketchy rope ladder into the cave of poo. Maybe one of these days, but not today. It's already been a long day.
I've returned. Same hoodie, different hat. The full beard is back. Yeah, this is several months later. I did not get around to finishing this video for a while. I took some breaks to work on other videos. And I lost my notes of what else I was going to say for this video. So I've looked back at what I already recorded, and honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot I need to add. Holy cow, I look rough today. It's been a long week, and your boy needs a haircut. I just realized I look very disheveled. I've got a really red nose. I've been feeling kind of sick. Whatever. It is what it is. Anyways, yeah, I don't think there's much else to say. I really only needed to record an outro for this video, I suppose. I don't think there's anything else I need to add. Doña Mountains represent a 32 million year old caldera. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. And all the rocks out there are basically, the volcanic rocks are subsequent eruptions from this same caldera over time. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess. That's all I need to say. Did I talk about flow-banded rhyolite? Maybe not. I'll add a thing right here about flow-banded rhyolite. So flow-banded rhyolite is rhyolite that has these unique textures in it. And the way those textures form is from friction of the rock, before it really became rock when it's just erupted material, basically scraping over the ground. So remember that rhyolite is a high viscosity lava, so it's very explosive. It goes boom. And a lot of rhyolite or rhyolitic eruptions are associated with like pyroclastic flows, such as what destroyed Pompeii. So you've got a lot of ash, a lot of dust. And basically these hot particles, they, get exploded to the surface. And then like a pyroclastic flow will travel down arroyos and ravines and things like that. Anyways, all this material moving, scraping against the ground, scraping against each other, and then cooling very quickly can form what we call flow-banded rhyolite. So that's what a lot of the rhyolite out at the Doñanas is this flow-banded rhyolite. So yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it. This is what happens when I take like a 2-month break between recording videos. Big shout out to my channel members right at the cowboy level. If you want to become a channel member, if you want to support the channel, click the button below. I appreciate it. Much help. Yeah, for the rest of you, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe. Share the video. Doing a great job selling myself right here. Anyways, I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.